It's Wednesday morning, and it's the Wednesday morning after Queen's Shadow released. I managed to get through this entire book, or rather this entire audiobook, all of my shift yesterday at work. And in this video, I'm going to be covering the spoiler-free review. The spoiler review will be up a little bit later on today. I'm going to shoot it right after this one. Now, my spoiler-free thoughts on Queen's Shadow can be summarized with, well, let me give you guys a background real quick on my feelings towards Padme as a character. With all respect to Carrie Fisher and the character of Leia, I think I just was a little bit too young when I watched the original trilogy to see Leia in her leadership role that she is in the original trilogy. But when I saw Leia on screen, Leia taught a young boy that, oh, women can be badass action heroes too. And like I said, I was too young to really realize that she was a leader of the rebellion as well. However, when I was 8 and I saw The Phantom Menace come out, that was when I saw a 14-year-old young woman who managed to sway an entire galactic government that is normally deadlocked with just her words. She ignored the advice/demands from somebody who's far more her senior so she could do what's right. Keep in mind that, at least to me, and I don't think it's ever going to change, I don't think that Palpatine was really expecting Padme to want to go back to Naboo in the middle of The Phantom Menace like that. And at least in my mind, that put his plans back about, 10 years. Until he could rebuild that tension in galactic politics. But anyways, Padme taught an 8-year-old boy that women could be, in addition to badass action heroes and fire a blaster, you can still wear makeup and flowing pretty dresses and still be a charismatic, powerful leader of an entire planet. And I think that that's a lesson, especially with just the way culture is in general. Western culture in particular, well, all culture really. It's an important lesson for either gender kid to learn that both genders are capable of the same things. And Padme taught that to me. And I've always loved the character of Padme for that. Of course, I didn't realize that she taught me that until I was like 20 or 22, but whatever. The point is that I've always loved the character of Padme. And I've been waiting for Padme to get a dedicated story for herself for 20 years. Honestly, in episodes 2 and 3, Padme was a passive character, at least what I call passive character. I imagine there's some other technical term, but you have passive characters and active characters. Active characters are the characters that change and make decisions that then change them based on the consequences of those decisions. And then you have passive characters which act as foils or catalysts for the active characters. Passive characters are designed to serve an active character. In episodes 2 and 3, Padme was a passive character for Anakin, which, well, it was a female character written by a male for a male character and his story arc, which is okay, but we never really got any attention given to Padme as a character. Until the Clone Wars, there are certain episode arcs and stories within the Clone Wars TV show where we get Padme-centric episodes, but even just as much in Clone Wars, Padme is still serving Anakin's character. Her character's job isn't to be the focus of the story. Her character's job is to serve Anakin's story. And I finally got that dedicated Padme story yesterday while listening to this book. The themes in this book are incredibly powerful, even to me, even though that, at least again to me, this book was very specifically written for female fans. There are certain aspects that, for example, I was speaking to my wife about it, and there are certain aspects like a bond deeper than just friendship in between the handmaidens, a sisterhood, if you will. There are themes such as growing into a new station, having to prove yourself in that station, something that women have to deal with a lot more than men do. Not that men don't need to deal with it, they just don't have to deal with it quite as often, at least in my opinion. Anyways, sorry, that was the wife calling, and now I've completely forgotten where I was going with that. Themes, that's where I was. There are certain parts of this book that hit me extremely hard. Now, I can't really mention the last theme because, or can't name it because it kind of is a spoiler for the book, but there is a scene that is very reminiscent of the scene in Leia, Princess of Alderaan by Claudia Gray, where Leia and Panaka talk. They have a conversation. And there's another one of those. Star Wars Twitter, when Leia, Princess of Alderaan released, everybody that finished it, it was like a rolling wave as people finished it, or as people got to that part in the book. They just kind of whispered chapter 14 to each other, or whatever chapter it was of that book. And there is another chapter in this book, I think, that's going to do the same sort of thing, where people are like, hey, did you get to bleh chapter yet? Or chapter bleh yet? Because that is probably the second. This book never made me cry, but that scene got me real close. And then there was another scene later on that I'll talk about in the spoiler review that did get me like single man tear cry. Not full on ugly cry, but close. Now, as for the tone of the book, and I mean this with the utmost amount of respect, and this is completely meant as a compliment. Something that I've picked up on with E.K. Johnston's writing style and her tone of writing, at least for Star Wars books, is that they're very similar to the tone and pacing that you would expect in a more serious episode of Avatar: The Last Airbender. There is there are hints of humor, but there's no rolling on the floor laughing style humor. There is a very serious scene happening, and then it's a very natural kind of humor where somebody just says a smart remark, a smart aleck remark offhand, and the scene just kind of continues on. And the pacing of this book is very much like, if you've watched Avatar: The Last Airbender, there's a series of episodes that take place in Ba Sing Se, which is the capital of the Earth Kingdom and whatever. But it's very character focused. Just like a lot of the new Star Wars books, it is a very character heavy story, where just as much attention is given to the rest of the handmaidens, or the handmaidens. I just said the rest of it, even though that Padme is not a handmaiden, because of that communal sense, that communal ownership of the identity of Amidala. They even refer to Amidala both in the narrative voice and the characters refer to the Amidala voice. Being that very monotone, stoic, inflectionless tone that Padme gave, or Natalie Portman gave, in The Phantom Menace. Anyways, I'm getting off track here. The handmaids are given just as much attention. Sabe in particular, Sabe being the one that Keira Knightley's character in The Phantom Menace. She gets just as much attention given to her as Padme, really. Not that the other handmaids don't get attention. Dorme gets attention. If I'm being completely honest, the only downside that I really had to this book is listening to it on audiobook, because all the different handmaidens' names kind of blurred together. There was I'm an idiot. I just happened to have a... That legitimately wasn't planted. That was just, I was sitting here scrolling through Twitter and I decided, okay, I should probably get on the filming. Anyways, Irte and Corday and Sashay, all of them get just as much attention, even if I couldn't remember any of their names. But again, that's just because I was listening to the audiobook version, and for me, especially with audiobooks, I don't remember character names. I'm a god-awful person with the spoken name. If I read a name, I know it, and I can place it to somebody's face, but yeah. Either way, this is definitely a must pick up, especially if you're a prequel fan. If you're only into the OT, maybe not, but and you know the prequels still aren't your jam, cool. Maybe don't pick this up, maybe wait for it to go on sale, maybe pick it up with your Audible credit, or check it out from the library. But it is definitely, to me at least, especially as a prequel fanboy, you really need to spend the 15 or 20 bucks or whatever it is for whatever version is most convenient for you for Queen's Shadow by E.K. Johnston. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to the spoiler review, and I will see you guys in that one. You guys have a good one, and as always, may the Force be with you. Take care.